So I've been teaching math for 15 years, but I'll tell you what, graphing parabolas and completing the square are really not skills most of my students are going to use ever after high school.
So NVC is an acronym that stands for Nonviolent Communication, and basically it's a mean of connecting others to fulfill needs and to resolve conflict, basically to create harmony.
But having empathy for each other and being able to identify what our needs are and being able to ask, make requests to help fill those needs, and then also be able to fill other people's needs. That's what I want my students to leave the school with.
My name is Caspi and I'm a certified trainer with the Center for Nonviolent Communication. I first arrived at Ghidotti when my son Michael started to go to high school there, and I met with the principal, Mr. Levinson, who was very excited about nonviolent communication and invited me to meet with the teachers. And we agreed that we will meet every Friday or every other Friday and start our training, which we did for the whole first year. So on these meetings, we would check in at the beginning of each meeting, which was a very new practice for the teachers to actually include their feelings and needs.
To begin with, it's such an unnatural thing almost for me at first, because it was so different, and just such a different way of thinking about human interactions and about the dynamics of what was happening in the class.
I don't think I realized how much it would give me, not just as a teacher, but as a person, as a mom, as a wife, as a colleague too, to my fellow teachers here.
It's allowed me to really have a stronger connection with my son, that we had so many walls built up between us. It was just escalating to a point where we hadn't been talking for a month, 2 months. And it seemed like every time I would open my mouth, next thing you know, we're just fighting. And there was just a moment where I sort of stopped at the table and checked in and said, okay, this is what I think you're feeling, and this is what I think maybe you need to have happen, and it was a huge breakthrough.
At the second year, we decided to bring this to the students. So we had a group of seniors that were interested in learning about nonviolent communication, and we did a whole semester of teaching the basics of nonviolent communication.
It's very important, for sure, for mental health, emotional health, and I think for just general understanding, because if you can't understand yourself, how could you ever understand another person? How could you connect with them?
I think something that I've learned from NVC is how to provide care, how to help people, and also, equally importantly, how to receive care, how to let people help me.
And the second semester was for the students to decide how they want to bring this to the community, and what they chose is to teach workshops on empathy, and also to teach the practice of expressing and receiving appreciation, and kind of developing a feedback system within the school.
We're looking at our needs, what are our needs, and what are the students' needs. And so, I mean, how often do you say, for instance, you need to turn in your homework on time? Okay, that's my need to keep the class organized, maybe, and my need for fairness in my class. But students have other needs. Students have personal struggles at home. And so it really helps you interact with the students on a more, I guess we come to the word human, on a more human level.
It's important to trust people and to not look on the, oh, these kids are out to deceive me. Instead, it's more like these kids want to be trusted.
I had a encounter with a student a year ago where I felt like they had taken advantage of some trust I had, and I was really angry about it. And only after sitting down and thinking it through did I realize where that was coming from, and I realized it was more my own issues. And was able to go back and talk it through with the student and basically explain to them why I couldn't hear their excuse at the time, and basically was able to reestablish a relationship that I might have broken otherwise.
There were enough people who were excited about this, and we decided to offer this as a choice and as to be in alignment with the principles of NVC, not to impose it on students who didn't want to learn it. And we created a smaller group, and this group, people were very excited and grateful and vulnerable.
I learned how to communicate my own feelings and how to be heard, as well as how to comfort others who are in crisis.
NVC really has touched me in all aspects of my life. I'm a teacher, I'm a principal, I'm a parent too, and NVC has changed the way I approach just about almost every interaction I have.
In the past, if a student had a late assignment, I would always listen to that reason for it being late. But now I think I feel like I do that with more clarity on why I'm wanting them to communicate with me, and that it is a conversation and it's a relationship.
We were talking about potentially contributing to some systemic change within the school.
I'm really sort of a stickler on get to class on time, and most students do. They get to class on time. I see it fulfills my need for respect.
So we chose to experiment with tardiness policy. Many students were late more than 4 times, and then the policy that the district has in place is that you go to a Saturday school and you get to sit for 4 hours doing nothing or working on your homework like a punishment, and that's supposed to give you motivation to change your behavior. It doesn't happen. People continue to be late, and maybe they do it even more, and it costs the school money because attendance is connected to budgets, and then they have investigations from the districts. And we did this process that is called convergent facilitation. It's about collaborative decision making, where you get in the room all the stakeholders. In this case, it was students, teachers, administrators, parents. We even had the superintendent. We put on a big board all the needs in relation to tardiness. We created one list of human needs. Some needs were about rest. People felt like they get up too early in the middle of the night, basically, to get to school. Some needs were about a choice for the students, for example. So it was a very rich exploration, and this process of putting everyone's needs on the table was very connecting, and people got to really hear what's really going on. So one student was sharing that his father went to Russia to take care of his grandma, and he's alone at home, responsible for his siblings, to drive them all to school. In the morning it's very tough, and he's not managing. Why should he be punished for that instead of being helped and supported?
Some students are perpetually tardy, and so it really made me, and just having a policy doesn't stop that. And so instead of just looking at it as a lack of respect for me, I could look at what are their needs in being tardy. I actually connected it to the work of literature that we were studying at the end with The Taming of the Shrew, because one of the characters, he's late to his own wedding, and the students asked me, well, why is he late? And I got to reply to them, well, why are you late? What need is he fulfilling in being late, and what need are you fulfilling? And so we were able to have a much deeper conversation.
And one of the teachers was sharing about how he was concerned about the students keeping up with the material. And when they are consistently late and missing stuff, he doesn't know if they are caught up with it, so it's about caring. And the students were touched hearing that. That never happens when you have punitive policies in place.
How did you feel about what happened?
I felt good about it. It was interesting to see the perspective of the teachers, because as a student you don't really get to see or understand like what they put into it and that you actually matter.
What was the outcome?
For my English teacher and I, we agreed that if I was running late, I would text him and just be like, hey, I'm running late, and Just so you know, with my algebra teacher, we agreed that it was my responsibility to come to him because I was missing the first warm-up, and he felt like it was his obligation to make sure I was doing good.
What did you learn from this process?
I learned that being late does have an impact, because before I kind of thought that it didn't matter and I was just another student, but it actually does matter, and that there's always something underneath, like an underlying reason of what they need. Like, for example, Mr. Bishop, my English teacher, he needed to be organized. His need was to be organized, and having me be late kind of threw him off his lesson plan. Real human connection is a lot more effective than teachers talking down to students. It just doesn't work.
If someone were to ask you about convergent facilitation, what would you say about it, and would you recommend that someone use it?
I would say that it's a lot more effective, and the outcome is a lot more kind, and we all come to more of a consensus rather than just being punished. And yeah, I would recommend it because I feel like it just shows how much each person is a human and not just a figure, a power figure. It levels the power dynamic of everyone and makes communication present. I feel that it creates a lot of empathy and understanding for each other. I felt like I got seen as a student and what I needed and the stories that were underneath me being late, and I also got to hear what the teachers had to say, and I felt that that was really important.
We live in an era where everybody has an iPhone, everybody has a computer. A flash of a picture on Instagram or a post on Snapchat, it's so superficial, and you don't get to the meaning of that. And I think we lose connections there, and connections are everything. Now that we're in this new era, depression is way up for students. Feeling connected to schools is way down for students. Feeling connected to peers is way down. Feeling connected to parents is way down. And so having NVC as a way to facilitate building those connections has been super, super valuable.
Our job's not just to teach English or math. Our job is to do what we can to make these students ready for the world. And this is, it's so atypical of an understanding among people than what we have in society. And we're not going to effect any change if it doesn't start here.